So if you're doing pipe like this, don't get discouraged if you burn through, because there's not a lot of pipe here, so it just heats up and then it burns through. I was trying to figure that out for the longest time. If you have a small pipe like that, there's no place for the heat to disperse. So I've just been adjusting my dig, and I've been bringing it down to an appropriate amperage for the rod. I'm running 1/8, so I'm running a little bit, maybe 95, 80, and that's hard because you got to keep the arc lit. So I just leave it at that, and it stitches really well, and I'm getting a good amount of penetration. So essentially what dig is it sets a amount of arc force that's on the machine. So you don't want to touch your dig and your amperage. You leave dig alone and make sure that the amperage is set at what you would like it to be. If you have a small workpiece, you want to go low amperage, but your arcing ability, the ability to keep the rod burning, is going to be 10 times harder. Although it doesn't really matter with 60-10 because you're disconnecting from the puddle. So enough arc force to melt the gap open, but cool enough to freeze it down below every time you touch it. So yeah, I was at Wyoming at Wyotech, and the students were doing 60-10 pipe, and they were wondering why they kept burning through, and I'm like, dude, you just ran a pass for like 30 seconds, of course it's going to burn through. However, they didn't understand about heat displacement. If you have a pipe this small, the heat's not going to disperse, and you're going to burn through no matter what. So you have to do your pipe in quarters. But in the field, you're going to have a huge pipe to disperse all the heat. It makes it 10 times easier. I was getting frustrated. I didn't know why this was happening, and now I know. And then I'm also getting a good fusion inside of there because I set my gap appropriate to the rod size I was using. So here's 1/16 filler rod, and I was using a 3/32 filler rod with a 1/16 rod. But now I set my gap to 3/32 and I use 1/8 rod. I don't weld with 3/32 rod unless I have a 1/16 gap. And then I have this right here. This is aluminum TIG wire. Makes it perfect for getting in there and setting your appropriate gap, because the gap is going to determine how well your 60-10 is going to burn through. If you're using a too big of gap with a too small of rod, you're screwed. But if you have the appropriate sizes for everything, it should be okay. And then of course I grind down and I look for slag inclusions and porosity. Then I'm going to run my second pass with 60-10.